Welcome back everyone to the channel. My name is Devin and today we're going to be talking about the new movie Renfield. In today's video, the first few minutes of the video will be an entirely spoiler-free review. I know the movie does not come out for another 2 weeks, so I'm going to have the first 4 to 5 minutes being a spoiler-free review, and then I'll be talking about the ending. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, which you most likely haven't, watch the spoiler-free review, and then once you watch the movie, come back and hear my ending explained as well as my analysis. So let's get started. I will not be going through an entire plot summary, but throughout the review I'll be talking about my favorite parts and what I liked best about this film. I was fortunate to be at the Renfield world premiere at the Museum of Modern Art in New York City this week. Thank you so much to Universal Studios for the invite. Nicolas Cage and Nicholas Hoult, as well as the directors and producers, introduced the movie, and I also got to go to the after party, which was a very awesome time at Haswell Greens in New York City. The movie stars actor Nicolas Hoult as Renfield, who is Dracula, played by Nicolas Cage's servant. Renfield used to be a real estate agent and was tricked into being Dracula's servant years ago. The movie also features Awkwafina as a cop and Ben Schwartz, who you may know as Sonic, as a villain. If you're new to the channel, what I do for my reviews is, since my name is Devin, I have an acronym for how I review movies. So starting with D, it is Devin's rating of the movie, and I gave this movie 4 out of 5 stars, or around an 8.2 out of 10. To me, this movie lived up to its expectations I had of it, and it's violent, it's funny, and it just has a really great message. If you've seen the trailer, you know 100% that Renfield is tired of being Dracula's servant. He wants to be free and be his own person, but he's never really experienced that before, or in so long that he forgot what it's like. For the letter E, the second letter in my name, it is the emotional connection I felt to this movie, and it really made me feel emotional throughout. Speaking about my life, I felt very connected to Renfield at times. Although I wasn't Dracula's servant at one time, his feeling of feeling alone, feeling like you can't do something, or that you're stuck in a relationship that you don't like, really resonated with me and probably will resonate with millions of people. Renfield learns a lot of important values throughout this movie, and you guys will love it. I can't really say much more than that, but the emotional connection is there. So let's talk about the top 3 characters in this movie for me. Honorable mention in this movie is Awkwafina. She plays a cop, and she's very good in this movie. Don't get me wrong. But at number 3, I'm going Teddy Lobo, played by the talented Ben Schwartz. Teddy Lobo has a family who is a leader of a gang in the city, and he's just a funny, hilarious character, and Ben Schwartz was phenomenal in this film. The comedy in this movie really didn't miss, and I enjoyed his character, so he's number 3. And if you look right here, I actually got to meet actor Ben Schwartz at the after party, and he was a really nice guy. At number 2, we have Nicolas Cage as Dracula. Yes, he is brilliant in this film, but he is not the main focus of this film. If you're looking for Nicolas Cage to be on screen every single second, he's really not. This movie is for Nicholas Hoult, and that's where number 1 is Renfield. Like I said before, without spoiling too much at all, Renfield is really trying to find himself throughout this movie. He is kind of a badass as well. Whenever he eats bugs, he can turn into a vampire, and there are a lot of great action scenes, and Nicholas Hoult's acting is phenomenal as always. So those are my top 3 characters, so now let's get into the V of Devin, which is the value. Is this worth seeing in theaters? And my answer is yes. This movie has a lot of awesome action, and I feel like it would be a lot better watching in the theaters than just renting at home. Now for the I in Devin, it is the movie predictable, and does it take away from the plot? There are a lot of awesome scenes in this movie, and with its R rating, they were not afraid to hold back on the violence, so I would say not very predictable, but it is a little bit. It does not take away from the plot though. Something I loved about this movie is the pacing though. It does flow very nicely. It gets right into the action from the start and continues to go fast the entire time. There's not much waiting around. There's some good sentimental moments, but it wasn't really dragging out, and at an hour and 30 minutes around there, it is perfect. And lastly, for the N in Devin, is it something I have never seen before? And the answer is yes. I have never seen Nicolas Cage as Dracula, and he puts in a hell of a performance. He's convincing, he's creepy. There are a lot of scenes that he has different prosthetics and makeup on, and he did all that himself. It's a movie that does not take itself too seriously, but has this amazing message throughout the entire film. And like I said earlier, the characters are genuinely funny. I personally hate watching a movie and thinking that I saw something like this before, that it's like a repeat. Like, for example, the Disney remakes. I do like them, but I'm not a fan from a movie critic perspective of that. So that's why I never really give those Disney remakes too great of scores. So that is the end of my spoiler-free review. I highly recommend Renfield, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, click off right now, come back later, because we're going to be talking about the ending and a little more in detail with spoilers. So you have been warned, so now let's talk about the ending of the movie Renfield. Throughout the entire movie, Renfield is trying to get away from Dracula's abusive relationship with him and wants to be his own person, and when he meets Awkwafina, the cop, he is able to see a different side when she calls him a hero. One of my favorite scenes from the movie wasn't even the ending, but it was the restaurant scene earlier on in the film. It was here where Renfield first discovered that he was not alone and that he could be a hero and that he wasn't just going to be someone's servant and could be his own person, have his own feelings, and get out of that relationship. And I feel like that was such a beautiful moment. I heard people crying in the theater, and that was like 20 to 30 minutes into the film. I think the movie just has this very beautiful message all throughout the movie that you are not alone, that you can do whatever you put your mind to, and if you're in a relationship, whether it is a family relationship, a girlfriend or boyfriend relationship, and it's not going well and you don't feel like you are enough, you really are, and Renfield felt that. I think there's a slow-mo shot of him walking away in the restaurant and he's like realizing he is enough, and I feel like that's something that also connected with me because sometimes I have felt like that in my life, and I'm sure a lot of you have at some point or another. Something I also loved about the film was the counselor scenes. I absolutely loved the comedy in these scenes and felt that it was just a very supportive group, but also it was just hilarious. I actually got to meet Brandon Scott Jones at the after party as well, who played the counselor, and he was such a nice guy. Other scenes that I loved was just the over-the-top violence, but now let's talk about the ending. So in the end, the Teddy Lobo crime family team up with Dracula, who was upset with Renfield for not wanting to be his servant anymore. Rebecca was the only cop on the police force to not be corrupt, and Renfield and her were the only people who could stop Dracula and the rest of the police force and Teddy Lobo's family from corrupting the city even more. So in the end of the movie, Teddy Lobo brings Dracula back to the Lobo family house, and that is when he meets the mother. The Lobos, just like Dracula, want to take over the world, and they decide to work together. They bring the blinds down, bring the casket in, and Dracula gets out, talks to the mother, and agrees to team up with them. There's also another side story between Rebecca and her sister, who is an FBI agent. Their father was killed by the Lobo family, and they're trying to avenge his death, but like I said, the entire crime family runs the city. So on top of saving the city, Rebecca as well as Renfield have to save Rebecca's sister as well. When Rebecca and Renfield arrive at the house, they find out that Teddy Lobo and his men were turned into servants by Dracula. This means that just like Renfield, when they eat a bug, they will get vampire powers as well. Renfield and Rebecca have to fight Teddy Lobo and his men, and they end up kicking their ass. Rebecca and Renfield do get beat up pretty heavily. Rebecca is able to get through the doors, but then it is Renfield versus Teddy Lobo. And Renfield kills Teddy Lobo by kicking him so hard in the ribs or the chest that he throws up his intestines. It's a pretty wild scene. With Teddy Lobo dead, Renfield and Rebecca try and find her sister now. And this is when Dracula comes into the fight. The entire movie, Renfield has been trying to stick up to Dracula in a meaningful way, and that is exactly what happens. Renfield and Dracula get into a massive fight, and eventually they are able to capture Dracula in a protective circle. This fight scene, I believe, was about 5 to 10 minutes, and it was back and forth, and it's a really great scene, and I love the action in it. I love the fact that Nicolas Cage would turn into bats throughout the movie and fly away to different parts that had shade, and I really love this scene. In the end, though, once they get Dracula in this protective circle, which has cocaine around it, they are able to kill Dracula by using a bunch of different weapons around the room. Since they were in the Lobo family crime room, they had mallets, they had chainsaws, they had, I don't even know what to call a bunch of those weapons, but they were able to chop up Dracula and save the day. Rebecca is also to save her sister, and I forgot to mention earlier in the film, one of the other favorite scenes I had was when Dracula goes to the support group and kills everyone, but Renfield thought very smartly and collected Dracula's blood to bring everyone back from the support group, including the counselor. Like I said, the messaging in this movie was great enough, and the gore, it's a fun movie, it's a fun time. 8.2 out of 10, 4 out of 5, very solid film. So let me know what you thought of the movie Renfield. What didn't I cover in this video that you loved? And if you have any great points, comment them below. I respond to every comment. I love having discussions with all of you. I will be trying to cover every single big movie in theaters when it comes out, so subscribe for more awesome videos like this. I post movie facts in my shorts every single day and awesome movie news as well. So this is Devin signing out, and I'll see you guys in the next video.